Okay. You don't have textbooks. You can actually access them on Edsby. They're in the group called King's Library, but we're not going to worry about that. If you do want to access it, these terms are on page 570 from when we did actually have textbooks that we distributed. A right bisector has, it's made up of two words that you probably already understand. In math, what is something that's right? So I'm not talking about correct. What does the word right mean? Oh, come on, you guys. Who wants to be right and tell me what right means?
Like the 90-degree angle.
Thank you, Joel. It meets at a 90-degree angle. And what about bisect? What does bisect mean?
Bi means two, and so it should be like a right angle plus two of something.
Yeah, good, Joel. The prefix bi, like bicycle, means it has two wheels. So bisect means it cuts it into two equal portions. So a right bisector is a line that intersects another line at a 90-degree angle and goes through the midpoint. If you don't remember that definition, the word tells you. So it literally says it's a right bisector. So 90 degrees, and bisect means cuts it in half. Okay, so the word, if we understand the two words, the words will tell us the definition. Okay, what about a median? I want you to think about a median in a road. What comes to mind?
The middle.
Yes, it goes straight through the middle. Thank you, Logan. So a median goes through the middle of a triangle, or goes in, typically as a triangle, goes straight through the middle and intersects at the midpoint. Goes through the middle. In this case, I'm going to put of a triangle because that's what we're going to be working with. Through, my writing is off today, through the middle of a triangle. I'm going to add in here, it connects a vertex to the opposite midpoint. So if you think median of a road goes straight through the middle of the, or goes right down the middle of the road, that's going to help you with a median line. I'm actually going to ignore altitude. This shows up in your textbook, but it no longer is in the Ontario curriculum. So I'm going to ignore altitude. You guys can scribble that out as well. If it's going to help you to put an illustration next to those terms, later on I want you guys to look up just a math diagram of a right bisector and a median. You can add that to your notes. Some of you are visual learners. You put that in your sheet to me. So please, if you need a visual picture, look that up to see what's a right bisector and what's a median. Okay, anyone need those or are we good to go?
I'm still running down medium.
Okay. Aiden, tell me a green light when you're ready, okay?
I'm good now.
Okay. Anyone else need that? I'll post these. Okay. You have these formulas on your sheet. I'm not going to rewrite them. You have slope, you have midpoint, you have distance. And somebody asked me yesterday, I will always give you the formulas. So you don't have to have them memorized. You just need to know how to use them. Okay. Okay. One thing I want to say before I get started with this question. I know it's difficult to do math remotely. You will quickly realize that the math concepts in grade 10 are going to just continue getting more complex. Today is one of them, and the next time we're together in person is another of them. So if something is distracting you right now, I'm going to encourage you to put it away, because you're going to learn how to determine the equation for a right bisector and a median line, and these are steps you have to know how to know and do on your own at the end of this chapter, okay? So put whatever is distracting you away. And here we go. Okay, this question says, determine the equation for the right bisector through QR. This is going to be a lesson on reading carefully to make sure we do this right. So QR is this line here. Just going to put a blue line over it so we focus on what we're talking about here. Right bisector. I don't have the steps here. We're going to develop them together as we go through. Joel, what did you tell me the word right means?
90-degree angle.
90-degree angle. What else do you know about things that are 90 degrees with each other or right?
They are
What kinds of lines would they be?
perpendicular.
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 Yes. So I'm going to just write that here for a second. My goal in this lesson is so that you intuitively understand the steps and don't have to rely on the steps. So I'm just interpreting the question. Right means 90 degrees, which also means perpendicular. I need to make an equation for a line that is perpendicular to QR. What do we know about perpendicular lines?
They're 90 degrees.
90 degrees? What about their slopes?
Their slope does.
This was in our quiz yesterday. What do you know about the slopes of perpendicular lines?
They're always positive.
Not
They
necessarily.
have to be negative sometimes. I heard they like I think it was the one of the slope has to be negative.
Yes, Avina's on the right track. One of the slopes will have to be negative. Perpendicular lines have what kind of slopes? Negative reciprocals. So flip the sign, switch the sign, flip the fraction. Now, this question is asking me to come up with an equation of a line that we don't even have any information for right now. I have no points on the line. I have no information. I can't use my slope formula. So instead, what we're going to do is we're going to determine the slope of QR and turn that into its negative reciprocal. So that way we can make a perpendicular line. So I'm just going to write here, the step first is we're going to calculate the slope of QR. This is a grade 9 formula, so we should be pretty comfortable with it. I'm going to label x1, y1, x2, y2, plug them in and start working. So the slope of QR is 1 take away 2, 5 take away negative 1. What's the slope of QR?
-1/6.
Thank you, Joel. -1/6. Now that's the slope of QR, but I want to have a right bisector through QR. So step number 2 is turn that slope into the negative reciprocal.
Can you scroll for a second? Just go for 1 second. I just need to see something.
And just give me a minute here. Okay, if QR has a slope of -1/6, what is the perpendicular slope to that?
Positive 6/1.
Thank you, Logan. Switch the sign. So negative becomes positive, flip the fraction 6/1. Guys, this is the symbol for perpendicular. It looks like an upside down T with a little box in the corner. So the perpendicular slope is positive 6/1, which I can just write as positive 6. I don't need to have over 1. Okay. I'm gonna like put a red box around this one, I think, because I really need to hold on to this. This is the slope that's going to give me a right bisector. This is my perpendicular slope. Questions so far? Okay, now look at the word right. Now bisect. What is this telling me to do next? Bisect means to do what?
Divide.
Be more specific.
Uh,
Divide it into or cut it into what?
half.
Yes,
Divide by two. Divide by two.
half. So this is telling me it needs to go through the midpoint. Ooh. So now I'm going to calculate the midpoint of QR. So that's going to be, I'm going to write that as my next step. Okay, this should be a fairly quick calculation here. I do have a graph for the visual of making sure we are on the right track here. So I'm just going to check QR. I'm going to add my x's, divide by 2, add my y's, divide by 2. -1 plus 5 over 2, and 2 plus 1 over 2.
Could I say something?
Yes?
Well, I think it's kind of worth learning, if you don't know them, I think it's worth learning the terms like mono, bi, or di, then tri, meaning 1, 2, and 3.
Yep, for sure. And actually, Joel, are you in science right now?
No, I'm taking that next semester.
Okay, so they actually will all come up because they're critical for molecular compounds. So definitely you'll see those sometimes in math, but quite a bit in science. Yeah, that definitely helps to interpret words, to know prefixes and suffixes. We'll throw a little bit of grammar in here just for fun too. Who has calculated the midpoint of QR? Anyone?
I got 2 and 1.5.
Thank you, Aiden. That is perfect. 2 and 1.5. Now, if I put it on my graph, it's right here. Does that look like it's about the middle? Hopefully, yes. But yes, that is correct. We get 2 and 1.5, or 3 over 2, whichever one you left is fine. Okay, I'm going to put a red box around that because now we have a slope that is perpendicular and a midpoint. Now that looks all fine and good, and I can actually even graph this point now. I know from this point I'm going to go up 6 and over 1. So I'm actually going to end up like kind of with a line like this. You don't need to worry about the graph. You will not be expected to do that. We're going to actually do it all by algebra. But this question is asking me for the equation of a line. I have random information right now. I have a slope and I have a point, but I want the equation for the line. Ultimately, what am I looking for? What will an equation of a line look like? If you guys can't actually even figure out the questions asking you, we don't stand a chance of being able to answer it. What is an equation of a line?
Is it the points?
What does a linear equation look like?
The equation of a line is typically written as y equals mx plus b.
Yes,
And m is
exactly.
the slope and b is the y-intercept.
Thank you, Matthew. Ultimately, in this question, I need the full equation. So y equals mx plus b. What do we know so far about the right bisector?
The M.
The m, thank you, the m. We have the slope is 6. And then randomly, I have another point, right? I have the midpoint. So what are we missing in order to be able to write the equation of a line? What are we missing?
The endpoints.
I don't necessarily need the end point.
Y-intercept.
I need the y-intercept. Yes, thank you. So I'm looking for my b value. Sorry guys, just checking here for a second. Is anybody else having a difficult time hearing me? Actually, that's a really funny question because if you can't hear me, you can't answer. Okay. Okay, I just put in the chat, but okay, I'm gonna assume people will message me back. Okay, here we go. I need my b value, so I'm gonna solve for my b value. Next, I'm going to solve for my b value, but I'm going to use the perpendicular slope and the midpoint. So I'm going to write in here, use perpendicular slope if I can write here. Oh my goodness. Okay. Oh, I can't spell perpendicular. That's funny. Perpendicular. So what I'm going to do now is in step 4, I'm going to grab y equals mx plus b. I'm going to plug in my midpoint for x and y and my slope, my perpendicular slope of 6 for m. So y is 1.5, slope is 6, x is 2, and I need to solve for b. So 6 times 2 is 12. How do I isolate for b?
Don't you want to, what's it called? Wait, I can't see the, one second. Don't you want to move 12 over and make it negative? So 12 subtract 1.5.
Yeah, so
and
once
then,
1.5 take away 12.
10.5?
I do believe negative.
Negative 10.5.
Yep.
And then negative 10.5 equals b. And that would be your slope.
This would be the y-intercept.
Oh, the y-intercept, sorry.
Yep, that's okay.
Do you know how to get rid of the base, like the class, like the cams show on the right side of my screen? Do you know how to like get rid of that?
Oh, yeah. So there's like a little collapsing button, the one dash.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, hit that and then
Oh,
it'll,
okay.
it'll
Yeah,
collapse.
yeah, yeah.
Yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, step number 5 is just write the equation of a line. So I just need to plug in the slope and the b value. So then this last step is to write the equation. So what's my linear equation? What's my final answer? Perpendicular slope was 6. My b value is negative 10.5. This is ultimately what I'm looking for. So this is my final answer. It's a lot of steps. I'm obviously showing you them very meticulously to get to my end answer. You will intuitively need to know these steps. So break the word down. The first thing we did was we found the slope of the line that was being bisected and we turned the slope into the negative reciprocal. That made it right. Then we found the midpoint so that it would cut it in half. And then we used the slope and the midpoint to find the equation of a line. So there's quite a few things we're doing here. I will have you guys practice one of these in just a minute, but I want to show you guys how you can double check your work. Does everybody have that copied down from my screen? Okay, I'm actually just going to quickly show you how we're going to double check if this even seems to make sense. So the first thing we had was a triangle. I actually didn't even ever use P, but we had a triangle at -1. Sorry, let me try this. This might be easier. Can you guys see my screen? Can you see GeoGebra right now? Anyone?
Yep.
Thank you. Okay, so because I can draw actually easier on here. So I had Q at -1, 2. I had 5, 1 as my other point. And I had -3, -4. Okay, and I'm just going to quickly connect these together. Just give me a second. Okay, then we found the midpoint was 2 and 1.5. Okay, and then we came up with a final equation of y equals 6x plus, minus 10.5. Okay, so this line that what goes through point D, D is the midpoint. We got the midpoint of 2 and 1.5. And that line that's going through it should be a perpendicular line. You might have to turn your head a little bit. Does it look like it intersects at a 90-degree angle with, on this program, the point labeled AB?
Yeah.
Awesome. And does it cut the line AB in half? That might be a little bit harder to tell. I can actually do that with this program. This program will do distance. So A to D is 3.04, so on and so forth. And look at that, D to B is 3.04, so on and so forth. So did we cut it in half? Okay, I'll answer my own question. Yes, we did. So if you're stuck, like, I don't know if this linear equation is right, you could play around with GeoGebra. Desmus kind of works. It won't draw your triangle as nicely, but you could plug it in here and you could just visually be like, does it fit what I know about a right bisector? Is it perpendicular? Does it bisect, meaning cut it in half? If so, great. And then you can move on. Okay. We have 15 minutes. What I'm actually going to do is I'm going to put you guys in breakout rooms and I'm going to give you one right bisector question that I want you guys to solve in your breakout rooms, or at least work together and compare answers. So find your slope, find your negative reciprocal, compare, find your midpoint, compare, find your equation, compare, and make sure you're working